The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 16 hours straight. Ambassador Zelix watched as another holographic star system turned red on the central display, marking the latest world consumed by the Kreth swarm. That made 47 worlds in 3 months. We have no options left, High Commander Voronez's voice rumbled through the chamber. His 6 eyes were dim with exhaustion. Every fleet we send gets torn apart. Every defense we build gets overrun. The Kreth are not just winning. They are erasing us. The council chamber fell silent. Representatives from 200 species sat in their designated sections, and not one of them spoke. They had tried everything. Advanced weapons, gravitational traps, biological warfare, even experimental time displacement fields. Nothing worked. The Kreth swarm simply adapted and kept coming, consuming entire planets like a cosmic plague. There is one option we have not tried, said Council Elder Miralta. Her translucent body flickered with uncomfortable colors. We could ask Earth. The chamber erupted in angry clicking, hissing, and shouting. Earth, the Death World. The isolated planet that refused to join the Galactic Council 20 years ago after their disastrous first contact. The homeworld of humans, those terrifying primates who evolved on a planet that actively tried to kill them every single day. Absolutely not, Voronez slammed 3 of his appendages on his console. Humans are dangerous. Unstable. They fight each other for entertainment and keep predators as pets. We cannot trust them. Can we trust extinction? Miralta asked quietly. That ended the argument. 2 hours later, the Council transmitted their distress signal to Earth. They asked for military assistance, for weapons, for anything that could stop the Kreth swarm. They swallowed their pride and begged the humans for help. Earth's response came surprisingly fast. Zelix read the message 3 times, certain it was an error. They are sending one person. A diplomatic consultant. Named Martha Chin. Retired. One person. Voronez's roar shook the chamber. We ask for armies and they send one individual? This is an insult. Perhaps this Martha Chin is a great warrior, suggested Miralta hopefully. Humans are known for their combat abilities. Zelix pulled up the attached file on Martha Chin. His scales paled. She is 73 years old. She was a teacher. Of children. For 30 years. The council members stared at the holographic image floating before them. A small human female with gray hair pulled into a neat bun, wearing something called a cardigan sweater. She had kind eyes and smile wrinkles. She looked like she should be baking cookies, not fighting an interstellar war. This is Earth's idea of help? Voronez was shaking with rage. They mock us in our darkest hour. 3 days later, Martha Chen's shuttle landed in the council station's main bay. Zelix was assigned to meet her, a duty he considered punishment for suggesting they contact Earth in the first place. The shuttle door opened and Martha Chen stepped out, pulling a floral-patterned suitcase behind her. She wore comfortable shoes, practical pants, and that same cardigan from her photo. Around her neck hung a set of military identification tags on a silver chain. You must be Zelix, she said warmly, pronouncing his name perfectly on the first try. It's nice to meet you, dear. I hope the journey wasn't too much trouble for you. Zelix stared at her. This was Earth's answer to the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. This tiny, elderly human with her flower suitcase and grandmother's smile. Mrs. Chin, he managed to say. The council is waiting. They're not happy. Oh, I imagine not, Martha said, adjusting her glasses. Nobody ever is when I first show up. But that's all right. She patted the dog tags around her neck with one hand. My late husband always said the best solutions come from the most unexpected places. Now be a dear and show me where you keep your strategic planning rooms. We have work to do. She walked past him with confident steps, her suitcase wheels clicking on the metal floor. Zelix stood frozen for a moment, then hurried to catch up with the strange human grandmother who was supposed to save the galaxy. The strategic command center was chaos. Hundreds of officers shouted coordinates, moved holographic fleet positions, and argued over impossible decisions. Martha Chin stood in the center of it all, taking notes in a flowered notebook with a purple pen. Mrs. Chin, we need immediate tactical recommendations, Voronez growled, looming over her with his massive frame. Another colony world is under attack right now. What do we do? Martha looked up from her notes and sipped tea from her silver thermos. How many supply ships do you have in that sector? Voronez's eyes widened in disbelief. Supply ships? We are discussing battle strategy, not logistics. Answer the question, please, Martha said in a tone that somehow made the High Commander take a step back. 17 supply vessels. he muttered. And how many of your soldiers have had a full rest period in the last week? Rest? The Kreth do not rest. We cannot afford to rest. Martha made another note in her book. I see. And when was the last time the fleet commanders actually spoke to each other instead of just sending data reports? Vornake turned to Zelix. Is she serious? Millions are dying and she asks about rest schedules and conversation? For 6 hours, Martha asked questions that made the military leaders want to throw her out of the airlock. She wanted to know about food quality, mental health resources, communication delays, and supply chain management. She asked nothing about weapons or battle formations. Then the emergency alert sounded. Colony World Tarvex was gone. 3 million people. Consumed by the Kreth in less than 4 hours. Enough of this. Vornake slammed his fist down. We asked Earth for help and they sent us a schoolteacher. This is a joke. Martha set down her teacup very carefully. The movement was so deliberate that the entire command center went quiet. You want to know why Earth sent me? Her voice was calm but something in it made even Vornake stop. Let me tell you what I see. I see 200 species who cannot agree on anything. I see commanders who have not slept in days making life or death decisions. I see supply chains so tangled that food rots on one world while soldiers starve on another. I see brave people dying not because the enemy is stronger, but because you are too scared and too tired to think clearly. She stood up, and despite being half the size of most beings in the room, everyone's attention was locked on her. My husband died in Earth's first contact war, Martha continued, touching the dog tags around her neck. I spent 3 days organizing civilian evacuations while bombs fell around us. I got 50,000 people to safety using nothing but school buses and old radios. So do not tell me I do not understand war. The room was completely silent now. The Kreth swarm is not unstoppable. They are predictable. They are like locusts. They eat, they move, they eat again. But you are all so busy panicking that you cannot see the pattern. She walked to the central display and began moving holographic markers with surprising skill. You spread your forces thin trying to defend everything. That is exactly what the Kreth want. Instead, you need to consolidate. Protect what matters. Let them waste energy on empty worlds. You suggest we abandon colonies? Miralta asked quietly. I suggest we evacuate people from colonies we cannot hold, yes. Better they live as refugees than die as heroes for a lost cause. Martha pulled out a color-coded chart from her bag. I have reorganized your defensive positions. Each fleet commander gets clear assignments. No more confusion. No more overlap. No more wasted resources. Zelix studied the chart. It was brilliant. Simple, clear, and actually achievable. This is insane, Vornake said, but his voice lacked conviction. This is organized, Martha corrected. And if you follow this plan, I guarantee casualties will drop within 2 weeks. She sat back down and picked up her knitting needles. Now, someone please send me the updated supply manifest. And get your people some real food and 8 hours of sleep. You cannot fight effectively if you are exhausted. She began knitting what looked like a scarf, completely calm while the galaxy burned around her. Vornake stared at her for a long moment, then turned to his staff. Implement her plan. Let us see if Earth's grandmother knows what she is doing. 2 weeks later, the command center looked completely different. Officers worked in organized shifts. Hot meals arrived on schedule. Communication channels ran smoothly with Martha's new protocols. And the casualty reports had dropped by 42%. Vornake stared at the numbers, then at Martha, who sat in her corner knitting and humming softly. How did you do this? He asked, his voice lacking its usual hostility. Martha looked up from her blue and green scarf. I raised 3 children on a teacher's salary after my husband died, dear. If I can manage that, I can manage this. She smiled and returned to her knitting. The trick is keeping everyone fed, rested, and talking to each other. Zelix approached her station with urgent news. Mrs. Chin, we have detected Kreth movement toward the Palaxis mining colony. The colony administrator refuses to evacuate. He says the minerals are too valuable. Martha set down her needles. Show me the pattern. The holographic display showed 3 months of Kreth movements. Martha studied it while sipping her tea, her eyes moving back and forth like she was reading a book. They move every 17 days, she said finally. Always toward the highest concentration of organic matter. They are not strategic. They are hungry. It is feeding behavior just like locusts on Earth. She tapped the display. The Palaxis colony will be hit in 43 hours. We need to evacuate now. The administrator will not listen to military orders, Zelix said sadly. Then he will listen to me. Martha opened a communication channel directly to Palaxis. A stubborn-looking alien appeared on screen. "I am not leaving my colony for some old human woman's guess," the administrator shouted. Martha's expression did not change, but her voice dropped into what she called her teacher voice. Every human child knew that voice. It meant you were in serious trouble. "Young man, I have buried a husband, raised 3 children, and taught elementary school for 30 years. I have dealt with stubbornness that would make your minerals look soft. You have exactly 43 hours before the Kreth arrive. You can evacuate your people now and save the minerals later, or you can stay there and explain to their families why you valued rocks more than lives. Choose wisely," the administrator stammered. Somehow, across species barriers and cultural differences, Martha's disappointed grandmother tone worked perfectly. I will begin evacuation immediately," he whispered. "Good boy," Martha said and closed the channel. 41 hours later, the Palaxis colony stood empty. The Kreth swarm arrived exactly when Martha predicted. They consumed everything and moved on. Not a single life was lost. After that, people started calling her Grandmother Martha, even though she kept insisting, "Mrs. Chin is fine." Junior officers sought her advice on everything. She helped a young communications specialist deal with homesickness. She taught a weapons officer how to write better reports. She even shared her cookie recipe with the station's chef. "You know," Zelix said one evening as Martha video called her grandchildren, "you are very different from what we expected." On the screen, Martha's grandchildren showed her their school drawings and told her about their days. She smiled and laughed, looking nothing like the woman who had reorganized an entire galactic defense force. "What did you expect?" Martha asked after ending the call. "A warrior. A soldier. Someone frightening." Martha picked up her knitting again. "I am all of those things, dear. I just do it differently." She held up the scarf she had been working on. It was large enough for Zelix's species. "This is for you, by the way. The station gets cold." Zelix felt something warm in his chest. "You made this for me?" "Of course. You have been working hard." She handed it to him. "My grandmother always said that taking care of people is the most important job in the universe. Everything else comes second." Vornake entered the room, moving less aggressively than before. "Mrs. Chen, I owe you an apology. You have saved more lives in 2 weeks than our military did in 2 years." "You are welcome, Commander," Martha said simply. "Now sit down and have some tea. We have a war to win and I have a plan." Martha called her strategy the picnic protocol, which made the military commanders very confused until she explained it in her simple way. "When you have pests in your garden, you do not chase them around randomly," she told the assembled admirals from 47 different species. "You put out bait in the right places and lead them exactly where you want them." She pointed to 5 empty star systems on the map. "These worlds are dead. No populations. But they have enough organic residue to look like food to the Kreth sensors. We seed them with biological material, make them irresistible, and the swarm will follow the trail." "You want to feed them?" Admiral Crotax asked, confused. "I want to guide them," Martha corrected, adjusting her glasses. "Right into this gravity well between 3 collapsed stars. Once they are trapped in the gravitational pull, the combined fleet hits them from all sides." "Simple. Simple?" Vornake studied the plan. "This requires perfect timing from 47 different species who have never worked together before." "Then it is a good thing I made you all practice coordinating for the past month," Martha said, returning to her knitting. The plan took 3 weeks to prepare. Martha managed it like she was organizing a school fundraiser. She created color-coded assignments for each fleet. She established communication check-ins every 4 hours. She even made sure every species' cultural requirements were respected in the battle plan. When Admiral Shendrix complained that his species could not work alongside Admiral Crotax's people due to an ancient dispute, Martha used her teacher voice. "Gentlemen, I do not care if your great-great-grandparents insulted each other 300 years ago. You will work together, you will be professional, and you will save lives. Are we clear?" Both admirals nodded like scolded children. The day of the operation, Martha sat in the command center wearing her late husband's military jacket over her cardigan. The dog tags clinked softly as she worked. "All fleets report ready," Zelix announced, his voice nervous. "Then let us begin," Martha said calmly. "Release the bait." The dead worlds lit up with biological signatures. The Kreth swarm, predictable as always, changed course immediately. They moved toward the bait like moths to flame, exactly as Martha predicted. "They are taking it," Vornke whispered, watching the swarm shift. "Of course they are," Martha said. Hungry things are easy to predict. For 6 days, the Kreth followed the trail of baited worlds, moving deeper into the trap. The combined fleet waited in silence, hidden behind sensor shields. Then everything went wrong. The Kreth Queen, far more intelligent than her drones, saw the trap. The swarm suddenly split into 3 groups, trying to escape the gravity well. They are adapting. Krotax shouted. What do we do? Every admiral started talking at once, their careful coordination falling apart in panic. Martha stood up and slammed her thermos on the console. The loud bang silenced everyone. Admirals, I did not spend a month training you to fall apart now. Krotax, take groups 1 through 15 and block the northern escape. Shendrix, southern route. Vornake, hold the center. Move now. Her command voice, perfected through decades of managing chaotic classrooms, cut through the panic. The admirals responded instantly, reorganizing their fleets. The battle was brutal. The Kreth fought desperately, but Martha's coordination held. Every time the swarm tried to escape, another fleet was waiting. The gravity well pulled them deeper while weapons fire tore through their formations. Then a suicide group of Kreth broke through, heading straight for the command station. Heading straight for Martha. Alarm screamed. Zelix saw the attack coming and threw himself in front of Martha just as plasma fire tore through the window. He took the blast meant for her, his body smoking as he collapsed. Zelix. Martha dropped to her knees beside him, her hands shaking as she checked his vital signs. Security forces eliminated the Kreth attackers, but Martha did not notice. She stayed with Zelix as medical teams rushed in, holding his hand, her knitting forgotten on the floor. The battle continued. The trap worked. The Kreth swarm lost 70% of its forces in the gravity well. It was the greatest victory against the Kreth in 3 years. But Martha sat in the medical bay, knitting beside Zelix's recovery pod, tears on her cheeks. Victory felt hollow when it cost her friend. Zelix woke 3 days later to find Martha asleep in a chair beside his medical pod, her knitting fallen into her lap. She had not left his side once. Grandmother Martha, he whispered, using the name she always corrected but secretly loved. Her eyes opened immediately. Oh, thank heavens. You foolish, wonderful boy. Do not ever do that again. You needed protection, he said simply. Martha wiped her eyes and squeezed his hand. And now I need you to rest. We still have work to do. While Zelix recovered, Martha studied everything they knew about the Kreth Queen. She watched recordings of the attacks, read intelligence reports, and sat quietly thinking. Finally, she saw something nobody else had noticed. She is a mother, Martha said to Voy. Look at the patterns. The Queen always protects the younger drones. She takes risks to save them. She is not a monster. She is a mother trying to protect her children. So what? Vornake asked. We must destroy them. No, Martha said firmly. We must talk to her. The Galactic Council rejected her proposal immediately. They wanted total extermination of the Kreth. Martha argued for 3 hours, but they would not listen. So she did what any grandmother would do when people were being unreasonable. She went over their heads. Martha broadcast a message directly to the Kreth Queen on all frequencies without permission. The council tried to stop her, but she had locked them out of the communications system. Zelix, still recovering, had taught her how. My name is Martha Chin, she said into the camera. I am a human from Earth. I am a mother and a grandmother. I have lost people I love to war. I think you have too. She held up a photo of her late husband. This was my husband. He died protecting others. I understand loss. She showed pictures of her grandchildren. These are my grandchildren. I would do anything to keep them safe. I think you feel the same way about your children. The response came 6 hours later. The Kreth Queen's voice was strange, layered and musical, translated through alien technology. You understand? The Queen said. We do not choose this war. We run. We flee from something worse. Our worlds were destroyed. We need space to live. To survive. Martha's heart broke a little. Tell me what happened. The Queen explained. Her species was not conquerors. They were refugees, fleeing from a disaster that destroyed their home galaxy. They consumed worlds out of desperate hunger, not cruelty. They were dying and saw no other choice. What if there was another way? Martha asked. What if we found you space where you could live without destroying others? Your council will never agree, the Queen said sadly. Then we will make them agree, Martha said with steel in her voice. The next council session was explosive. They were furious at Martha's unauthorized communication. They called it treason. They demanded she be arrested. Martha stood before them, small and gray-haired, and spoke in her teacher voice. You will listen to me. The Kreth are not evil. They are desperate. We can give them uninhabited space sectors. We can help them adapt to different food sources. We can choose peace instead of extinction for both sides. And if you are too proud or too angry to see that, then you do not deserve to lead anyone. The chamber fell silent. Then Zelix stood, still weak from his injuries. I support Mrs. Chen. Borneke stood next. As do I. One by one, admirals and representatives stood. The ones who had watched Martha save countless lives. The ones who had learned that sometimes the greatest strength was choosing peace. The treaty took 2 months to negotiate. The Kreth received 3 uninhabited sectors. In exchange, they stopped all attacks and agreed to learn sustainable resource management. Martha personally oversaw the first meetings between Kreth drones and galactic scientists. When it was done, the council offered Martha every medal and honor they had. She refused them all. I just want to go home to my grandchildren, she said. Her shuttle left on a quiet morning. Zelix came to see her off, wearing the scarf she had knitted for him. The galaxy will remember you, Grandmother Martha, he said. I hope they remember the lesson instead, she replied. That listening works better than fighting. That every mother wants the same thing no matter what species. And that sometimes the best weapon is a cup of tea and a willingness to understand. She hugged him goodbye and boarded her shuttle. 3 months later, sitting at her kitchen table on Earth, Martha's communication device buzzed. Another distress call. Another impossible situation. Another chance to prove that humanity's greatest strength was not violence, but compassion. Martha sighed, smiled, and reached for her knitting bag. Let me get my thermos, she said. Someone needs help. Because that is what grandmothers do. They show up. They listen. They fix what is broken. And they never, ever give up on anyone. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never underestimate a human grandmother. They had been managing chaos and solving impossible problems since the beginning of time. And they were very, very good at it.